YouTube! How's it going, guys? Welcome to TPB's Tech-Bodge Emporium. Guys, I know it's been a week or so. I'm sorry, this has been a bit more impactful than I was hoping for. It's been quite achy and the drugs have really had me dopey as anything. However, this is an exciting day, guys. I've had this GPU far too long as like a stock piece of hardware. I actually think this is probably the longest I've had a GPU, because I've had it like a year. This is the longest I've had a GPU that I haven't messed with. So we're going to be modding my 5070 Ti, my golden sample, Phoenix here. We're not going to be customizing it, that's going to come in a different video. I have some ideas to give it my own flair, but we're going to do the modding now in this video. Right, so we'll talk about my 3060 first, right? When I mod stuff, I try and mod them in a way that you could still just use it as what it is. And I could, in theory, just return everything back to stock. I've still got the old fans and all the screws and stuff to put this back to stock if I really wanted to. But, you know, I donned it the 3069 because it runs at 25% plus 25% on both the VRAM and the die. And it runs at like 55 degrees, which for a heavily overclocked twin fan card, that's really freaking good. But yeah, I love this thing. It served me well. It was a nice little upgrade from my 1080, and like I said, it got me through some tough times. We're talking COVID and stuff, and yeah, it wasn't long before I modded this. Wasn't long at all, to be honest. I don't think I'd quite started the channel when I did the modding, or I did, and the video wasn't quite how I wanted it to be, so I didn't release it. But anyways, this is what I mean by when I mod a card, I try and mod it in such a way that I can return it back to stock if I really needed to. So I try not to damage the card in any way. If it's got plastic on it, I can happily throw like a bit of vinyl wrap. This is all vinyl wrapped and stuff. That's how I did the customizing on this one. And yeah, we're going to do something somewhat similar. Basically just swap out of the fans. We're going to do a little bit of work for the backplate, because like this card has got a metal backplate. This is metal, but like the 5070 Ti in there was no connection for the backplate from the die, from the card. There was no cooling solution to the backplate, so I added some. So this has basically got the backplate connected straight to the back of the VRAM, and then obviously we've got this extra bit of heatsink which has got a couple of copper shims and then some thermal pads, and that goes straight onto the back of the die, which is what adds for the cooling. Does it make a massive difference? No. Did I really necessarily need to do this to this card? No, but that's not why I do this stuff. Like for example, we are going to see if we can improve the audio on this. I don't think the fans are that terrible on the stock model. They have got a little bit of a whine to them, but I use headphones, so it doesn't make much odds to me. And the rest of the fans in my case, they run at some pretty high speeds anyway, like so, although they're all Noctua. So yeah, we're gonna see if we can sort out the audio a little bit by swapping the fans out. I will go over what fans I'm going with soon. And also, we're gonna see if we can improve the already excellent temperatures. When I say excellent temperatures, I ran Fairmark for about 10 minutes or so, we'll see where it plateaued out. Basically, this card just operates, it sort of plateaus out at about 68 degrees under really heavy load. And that's pretty much all I've been able to get out of it when gaming. Don't get me wrong, when we've got a really hot day, it might jump up into the 70s, but in general, it actually runs really quite cool. But that doesn't mean that we can't improve it a little bit. So I've created some stuff. This is going to be fun. I'm actually excited for this. I've done some work. Unfortunately, I've not been able to take you along on the journey of making this, but what I have made is this. So you will see where this goes soon. It'll make a lot more sense once we're inside, but basically I've created this. This is going to aid in wicking away some of the temperatures from the back of the die and the back of the VRAM. Also, you'll see where this lines up with, and this also is stretched out here so that it hits the back of the power delivery. So yeah, you'll see this. We're gonna have to do some marking out. I've also you'll notice that there's a couple of pads of double-sided thermal tape there, same as here. That is for this. So this is just literally going to be a piece of copper that's going to be dumped on the end of these heat pipes, and just add to an extra bit of soak away for these to run to. And there should be plenty of holes in there to not cause too much of an impact on the pass-through, because this sits above the pass-through. You'll see, it'll all make sense when we get the card apart. But I've made this, so I'm kind of excited to see if this makes an impact or anything. The other thing is, they don't really give you much in the way of temperature readings on those VRAMs chips, so I'm kind of bothered by that, so I'd like to be able to give it some more heat wicking. I've given this a nice flattening off, and then, so we've got that, which is exciting. That's going to be fun to throw on. I've also got, purposely, I'll explain these afterwards, these are Arctic TP3 thermal pads. I'll explain why I've gone with these and what we're going to be doing with those and how they're going to be working, hopefully. Once we're in there, we'll pop that down on there. The fans that we're going to be swapping out for are basically the same fans that I've used on the 3060 here, which is the NF A9s, which should deliver at least the same, if not better, airflow. The same, if not better, airflow, and a lower volume. So these should help with the audio side of things and should give a little bit more push. Now, if you are a fan lover, if you are a Noctua lover, there is going to be a section of this video you're just going to have to look away, because how I plan to fit these, we're going to have to do a little bit of doctoring to these things. So that will come to light. So we've got those. I've got 3 of those. This was not a cheap do at all. Or have a look at the thermal pads in there. If they're a millimeter, I've got this SYY. I have really good results with this SYY, so I would recommend this company if you're looking for thermal pads. They've been excellent, everything that I've used them with, so I just think they're really good. But if the thermal pads are on the card, you know, between the heatsink and the PCB, if they're a millimeter, I'll probably replace them with this, because it's just better. Because we're going to give it a dose of Cryonaut. It's been running with Duranaut on there. I do want to talk about that stuff, but another video. And then to connect the fans up, what I have, yes, they're Noctua, but to be honest, there wasn't much in the way of like price difference really in these 3-ways between these Noctuas and like a normal one. So we've got this Noctua 3-way, so that should connect the 3 fans up to one single connector. And then I have this Gainward Solutions VGA to PWM fan adapter. So basically this is just going to go from the fan connector on the motherboard of the GPU to that splitter, to that 3-way splitter, and then off to the 3 fans. So yeah, basically this should mean that that should mean that I can run the fans off the GPU profile, so as if they're just the GPU fans, which will mean that I can keep it all completely self-contained in the same way I have with this. This has also got the fans running off the connector for the GPU, and yeah, in the same way that I've got it set up on this, just so that I could literally, if I wanted to, I could quite comfortably sell this to someone and be comfortable that it's not going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? I can be more than safe in the knowledge that this is well put together. It's not going to short on anyone. It's not going to fall apart. It's not going to stop running for any real reason other than normal stuff that would happen with a GPU. And I like to mod my cards like that. I like to be able to try and keep the shroud. I like to try, like, we all know that you could just rip the shroud off and strap like a few 120mm fans to it and call it a day. But I like to customize my cards, like, because this is a Gainward. Like, I like to christen them as well. So, like, obviously this is a 3069 because it's not quite a 3070 or a 3060 Ti, to be honest. But it's quicker than the slowest 3060 Ti on 3D Bark, I think, on Port Royal or one or the other. Like, it was my claim to fame. Like, it was almost there. So I really did push that, and it runs really cool. So I was quite stupendously impressed with all this, how my mods worked with this, because, like I said, 25% on both the VRAM and the die, and the thing runs at 55 degrees, maxes out. Like, and you got to really push it for that. You might get 60, if I remember rightly. Like, it just runs really well. And I want to be able to do something along the same lines with this. So this 5070 Ti, because it's a Gainward golden sample, it's going to become a 5070 GTI. And I'm kind of feeling like, when it comes to the customization, I've got an idea for that, in sense of how it's going to be drawn up and written. But it's also a GS, you know, golden sample. This thing's a little overclocking beast. It runs a moderate overclock as it stands, just out the box. Daily drives it, so it's pretty good. Anyways, shall we rip this GPU out of the PC and get it apart and start messing with its insides? Shall we? Sounds like fun, yeah? I'm excited, guys. Yeah, I'm happy boy. So shall we? I'll get the GPU out and we'll start ripping it apart, shall we? Let's go. Right, guys, I've got the 5070 out of there. We're going to have to look at a couple of things on our way out through there. But let me just quickly go over this heatsink that I've created. So, this is it. The shape of this will make total sense once we've got the backplate off there. But essentially, this is a 1mm thick copper plate. This piece here is just another piece of 1mm thick copper plate just attached on to the top of it. And these heat pipes are 1mm thick, and then obviously that plate's just 1mm thick as well. So essentially at this thickest point, this is realistically basically just 2mm thick. There may be tiny fractions of millimeters more than that with the thermal silicon paste stuff that I used, cement stuff that I used to put this together. But essentially this is 2mm thick. And what I've done is obviously these heat pipes. So if I just lay this on the back of here, it might make a little bit of sense. So the intention is for it to be over the top of obviously the die and stuff, right? This here is starting to make sense to you now. And yeah, in essence, basically these heat pipes are going to come and they're going to be attached with thermal tape to the bottom of these fin stacks, so it's should soak heat into this. But obviously on the other side of these, I will also place this stuck underneath, so there's just an extra bit of metal there for the heat to travel to. And you'll see why as well that I've decided to do this. But also it's kind of fun. I like to mess around with stuff like this. So yeah, this thing is basically like 2mm thick. So it shouldn't cause too much of an issue. Now, the problem I do have, obviously, is how much gap do we actually get in here. Now, this is actually an issue. See if I can kind of show it off. I'm trying to show you, but essentially there's 2mm gap between the flat of the motherboard, the flat of the board, and the backplate. So basically there's 2mm between the two. So obviously you've got components sticking out in there and stuff like that. And this thing's 2mm thick. So what I've done is, you've probably seen them in the background there. I've got these little washers, these little plastic washers. They're like 1mm thick, and I've stacked them so they're like 2mm thick now. And I'm going to stick them on each one of the standoffs on here, which should absorb the 2mm of the heatsink, and then we'll fill up that space with, well, I'll show you. You'll see as we go along. But yeah, basically we need to get this backplate off. So let's do that. Oh, I forgot. Need to make it proper. 1 second. There we go, that's better. What was I thinking? Right, let's carry on. Right, let me flip this backplate over, and can you already see? It's already showing some heat issues. It's already showing that the heat is aerating around this area, especially over these. So, what I need to do is I need to mark up where it's going to be. So what my plan is, because we need to remove some of this plastic off this. This isn't so much of a problem. Maybe it will be somewhere along here, but really I want the heat on the heat pipes to go to this end, so I'm not really fussed about this bit in the middle. But we do need to sort out this square. So my plan is we'll place this over the top. You'll see it, there's the VRMs there. You've got the RAM modules, the DRAM here and here, all the way around, and then you got the die, and obviously you got the power connector here. So I've designed this to basically go across the top of those power connectors there, still get the VRAM, stay out of the way of all of the screw holes, and also get the back of the power connector. So that'll sit on there like that. So what I need to do now is when I put this, line this up where it's supposed to be. I need to put a little bit of just need a little bit of Captain tape, just as a sort of marker of the sort of length that I need to get to. And that is there. Okay, so I need to cut the plastic off this. these things up in there. Right guys, so if you're curious, it's purely aesthetical reasons. You rather see mostly copper from the other side rather than this tape. But that should be basically enough to get those heat pipes connected, and this should be patch big enough for the patch there. So we're going to practice backplate so that everything's on it. I think I'm going to have to take the gloves off for these little standoffs. So, apologise. To me, you're kind of seeing the exciting bit. As you can see, they've all just added like basically 2 mil to the height of the backplate, so that should help absorb this. So that should put a bit of pressure on that. Make sure that they stick down there. It should be sort of in the right place. Yep. I'm happy with that. Let me just clean off this tape that we don't need. So let's be fair, it's pretty ugly. And even though, you know, I'm going to see it, I'll try to see as little of it as possible from this side. Like I knew I was going to see some, but that'll do. Right. So, last thing to go on this now is this, and the advantage is I have those 2 spots to know exactly where I need to put them. And it looks like I was kind of not far off with my little positionings. So let me just get the tape off these. Alright, so the advantage is the only real problem I had was these two bolts situations on where to put it. That's why I've opted to put the tape on the ends here. That's probably about the best spot, isn't it? And that's nothing major, it's just another extra bit of meat for it to breathe through, innit? You can barely notice it. But again, it is just taped on. It can be removed. So, theoretically, even though I've got this heatsink on, because I put those spacers on this backplate, on all of the bolt heads, I should still have a 2 mil gap between this heatsink and the backplate. So this should be alright to work. And obviously anything that like here, it's not covered, do you know what I mean? It's not going to make any contact with anything. These 2 plates here are going to have thermal pads completely covering them. And obviously this is just open, and there's only a heat sink over here, so it's not going to be a problem. So there's the back plate. It is a little bit heavier, but we should be good to go. Hopefully this makes a difference. If this gets warm, I'll know it does. But like I said, it was starting to like melt the plastic a bit behind the die and that, like, so it should make a difference. And now it's making direct contact with this back plate as well, so the copper should help suck heat really quickly. So I think this back plate is like steel, if I'm honest. I don't think it's anything. I'm pretty sure it's steel. But yeah, so yeah, let's get onto the fans, shall we? Let me know what you think so far. I'm happy with this. I think it's working out quite nicely. We seem to be out of the way of those screws, so that's good. So yeah, we'll come back to this once we've done all the fans and stuff, yeah? Let's go. Right, now I'm going to be repasting the die, so I will be taking the board off anyway. But I want to know, because we've got these holes, I want to know if I can take the shroud off, the fan shroud off, without taking the motherboard off. That'd be pretty cool. So we've got little spring screws in there holding that down. That could be a good thing. Because I've got access to this, I just want to know if I can take this fan shroud off without removing the motherboard. Because that'd be kind of cool. Right, so should be these four. If I remember rightly, it's just suction now. Let me just, I need to sit down. I need to sit down for this, guys. So it's just suction now holding this on, but it wasn't nice to remove last time. Just a little bit of pressure on the slot, just easing it up. And we've got the thermal pads that are quite thick, so I'm probably not going to be replacing them. I might do though. I've got the fan connector. There she is. Let me get that cleaned off. Right guys, I've cleaned off the die, there it is. Some of you might complain about all this thermal stuff, goop around the edge and stuff. To that I say, yeah, I don't care. Like, the die's clean, that's all that really matters. Yeah, the die's clean, so that's all that really matters. And then obviously you've got all the rungs running around the outside. It's quite a compact and well stuffed in board, you know. So we'll put that to one side because we don't need that right this minute, because we need to take this off. Now the thermal pads, I did have a look, and you can probably see in here, I have cut up some of these to stack them to see what height we're looking at. These are about a 2mm thermal pad. I don't have anything to replace them with, so we won't go into. And this here is the screw that we were looking for. There's another spring loaded. I felt let that go. Yeah, it's just. So there's 2 spring loaded screws here, that one there and that one there. They're both spring loaded to hold the base on. It looks like the connectors come up through here. I'm going to guess this is to do with the RGB, ARGB. Now, what we got to do now? Oh, there's another screw. It's hidden down there. You see that? It's quite well constructed, this thing. Like, it's solid, you know. Like, I like this sort of like design of using this kind of chassis frame. You know, this piece here. It's like a frame almost, like a chassis that everything attaches itself to. What am I connected to now? Did I not take a screw out of that? Oh, did I unscrew the wrong thing? I may have unscrewed the wrong thing. Just no, did I not just come? Am I losing my mind? Did I not just take a screw out of this? I'll have to watch the video back, to be honest. So I am so confused at where that other spring-loaded screw came from then. One came from there. I swear I just took that out. I don't know. Either way, we're now disconnected. The shroud is now off. So that's that here. That's that. Right, okay, so this, obviously we've got the shroud here. We're going to be doing a little something with that. Not as much as I thought. I'm going to give this a clean out as well, like, but we've got the plastic shroud off. I want to put this upside down so that I'm not putting too much pressure on those thermal pads. Because, right, let me show you what RAAGH. We've got a cooler in here, right? And the fans are powered by this weird connector here. So I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes, I've got nothing to connect to that. But fortunately, it actually connects to the fans on a different connector right here. Yeah, I don't think they're touching. All right, cool. So as you can see, they're all connected on this one fan connector here, cable. But I think if I leave this in, just remove the fans and leave this one cable in, I should be able to connect to that. Anyhow, I'm going to give this a clean with my handy dandy Hoover attachment on my blower. Right, okay, so that's the shroud cleaned up. Looks way better now. Handy to know that the ARGB is really, really simple there. I wanted to look at this and yeah, we're going to be able to do what I want to do with that. Right, so that's going to be a future video during the customization of this GPU. But let's get on with the modding. So now I need to get these fans off here. Unfortunately, this one, I'm going to have to cut in such a way that I can reconnect it. it shouldn't matter. Super frustrating. Everything else has been really, really smooth sailing. Like I saw the dodgy connector at the other end, but this should just take this. It does. So we can utilize their connector, but their connector splits to 2 fans. For some reason, everything else is disconnectable apart from this one fan. So I have to use their connector to connect to the motherboard. I have to use their connector, so I have to go through this. I just really hope that it's not going to lose its head because this isn't connected anymore. Because I'm going to have to cut this. I'll have to cut it and tape it in such a way that I can repair it if need be. So I'm probably going to peel it back and cut it somewhere here so that I can make a repair on it if I ever need to, or mark it so that I know which side's which, and then just cut it somewhere where I can plausibly repair it. If need be. But this is the most egregious bit, and it's just because they didn't put a connector on it. Like, I've searched through my options on this quickly in my head, and all it's telling me to do, because we don't need a connector for a 3rd fan because the 3rd fan's going to be on with the other 2. So, like, for what I'm doing, it's not going to make a difference. It's just kind of frustrating that I've got to cut this in a way that I can then reconnect it at a later date if I ever want to. It's a bit shit that I've got to do this, but see, it's a bit of a squeeze, but all the fans and the screws for them are in there now, so they can get put away. So hopefully I don't need them. Right, let me get this clean. Okay, cool. That's that clean. Right, so that's the fin stack cleaned off now. So we're going to put that to one side, and we need to concentrate on the shroud now. But you get the 3 fans that we're replacing with. I'd point out as well, each one of these fans do come with a lengthy extension. So they don't just come like that. So if I need to, I can stretch out. Right, so first and foremost, we need to see if these fans actually fit inside that shroud, and whether I can space them or they need to be like that. Right, so they can be spaced. Right, so they do fit in there. I'll put a fucking tape off there. So they do fit in there, but we need to do a bit of doctoring. So if you're a fan botherer, or you're a huge Noctua fan, you may need to look away at this bit, because I have a plan to have these fitted to try and reduce how much extra thickness, the fan's making. So obviously the other fan's fitted in this shroud, and they're flat to the thing. So we're always going to add some thickness, but at the minute we're adding like 25mm to the equation, normal fan thickness. So yeah, I have a plan. And essentially the inside of that shroud there is right on the edge of this. You see where it curves there? Right on the edge of that is the inside of that shroud. So what I'm going to do is, because it shouldn't do much damage other than just struck, like the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the corners. We're going to do one first. I'm going to cut the corners off this. And you see this, like, sort of like the stem, the peg sort of stem bit at the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a chamfer on that, on the first bit of it. Just the tiniest little, quite a shallow chamfer. And then hopefully, if I put a little bit of that rubber tape I've got around the inside rim of this, hopefully this will then have a push fit. So there'll be no screws going into the shroud or anything. This will just push fit into there, and hopefully I can get it to drop in, you know, a good chunk of the way. If I can get this to drop in even halfway, that reduces it massively. If I can get it to drop in most of the way, like, into that shroud, you know, there's a good 15 mil there. If I can take the whole thing 15 mil in so that the fan almost sits flush with the front edge, that would be ideal for the fan to work, and would be ideal for getting it as close to as possible. We might even be able to use the original mounting screws to put it on. If not, I do have a plan for that, but yeah, we're going to cut these corners off and we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm going to show you that because this video is going to be huge anyway. Right guys, I've got one trimmed down. As you can see, I've like really had to come quite tight. Let's see if it how they fit. Unfortunately, one of the pegs I cut a little too short, which is kind of irritating. I hope that doesn't cause any sort of wobble or anything, but oh, a little bit of rubber on the inside of there and it'll should just grip that nice and tight. I'm happy with that. There's a bit of a wobble. That's just because that one peg's short. That's annoying, but the rubber will probably solve that. I'm happy with that, like, they're almost flush with the front, like, and it looks like, because these are the mounting pegs, it looks like we're below the mounting pegs, so we should be able to just use normal screws. That'd be freaking awesome. Right, so let me get these other two of these trimmed down and we'll see about getting these fitted, yeah. Oh, I'm kind of happy with that. And anyone that's saying, oh, I'm destroying the structure of the fans, they're not going to work properly and stuff, the thing is, this shroud is now kind of taking their place. Like I said, I'm going to run rubber tape around the inside of here. That should just grip it. So I'm kind of putting the structure back with the shroud, but yeah, this could be fucking awesome. So let me just get these other two trimmed down. Right, okay guys, so what I've done is, if you have a look here, I've run that rubber tape around the inside of the shroud housings. So hopefully we can get like a push fit on these. One of these has got a short peg and I want to see if I can, oh, it's that one. Let's see if I can do something about that one. Right, so what I've done is I got these little hard little plastic shim things in a kit for something. And I've just used them to just bring the height back up to the rest of the pegs. Right, so place your bets. Is this going to give us like a push compression fit? Is it? Oh, it definitely felt like it was. Oh yeah, that's in there, guys. That is in there. It's not altered the fan in any way. And it looks like we're underneath the mounting holes. Should mean that we should be able to just use normal mounting for them. So this is actually working out quite well. Right, next one. Right. And then for the last one, which is a bit mangled. Alright, okay guys, so that is now fixed on there really. All three fans are in there, nice and neat and tidy. Squeeze this back up nice and thick. So make sure it makes contact because it has been squished a little. If you're ever worried about you might have squished a bit of thermal pad, just make it tall, keep it in its place, and it should just squish back to where it was. But if you make it tall, it's guaranteed to make contact. But as you can see here, I'm just going to trim these bits off so it's nice and neat. But basically we've got a cable tie running both sides, straight from the fan holes, and the same on this side. I was actually running to the screw holes on this one at the top. But it's pretty much lined up. You know, it might be a little bit wonky, but we trim these down and then we can get the motherboard back on. Oh, no! Please be somewhere I can just grab it. Please say that's you. Right there. Oh, connectors there, right, nice. Let's see if we can get this through the back. Really get it out the front. That's it, that's it. Oh my god. I have no idea why it won't go through that gap. Might even be able to route it the way it's supposed to go. Without taking it apart, that would be freaking utterly. Is that right? Right, so let's go through the hole it's supposed to go through down here. Can I get it to come up through the hole that it's supposed to come through? Up here. Yes, I can. Job done. Woo, that was close, guys. That was freaking close. Right, so it's the motherboard back on. The PCB. So we need to paste up. It's a little bit heavier. Not much heavier though, but it is a little bit heavier. Throw a dollop on there. I know people are like, oh, you shouldn't spread it, doesn't matter. It does on a die. If you don't get coverage everywhere on a GPU die, but it's non-conductive, so it doesn't matter if you get a bit too much on there. I'd rather have too much than not enough. There we have it. It's the thermal padded up. So what I need to do is I need to what I've got is I've got this stuff, like I showed you before, this TP3 from Arctic. I've got 2 packs of 0.5, 1 pack of 1.5, right? Well, you'll see what I'm doing here. Now, remember that gap between the PCB and the backplate was 2 millimeters. So that is filling that gap, right? Because obviously we've put 2 mil spacers on here to make up for the space of this. So this should fill that gap between the PCB flat and that back. So all the components as well should be squished within this, extremely squishy. That's the main reason I got it. It's well performing and it's really squishy. That's why I got this. So we're going to set up the backplate first, and then we're going to do something on here, and you'll see what I'm doing, and it'll make sense. Because don't forget this, the edge rim of this almost makes contact with the backplate when it's all closed. So let me just pull the GPU to one side for 1 second. So what we're going to do, because this stuff is stackable, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this 0.5 one. So that's ready to go on. Now, we need that thick stuff. Let's get the GPU back. So, what I intend to do with this is put this where it's needed. Right, let's get the back plate. Right, okay guys, that's it in. I've actually used a couple of the screws from the actual mount where the normal screws weren't going to go in. But there she is. She's fully loaded up. She's got Noctua A9s in there instead, so they should be a bit quieter. And a little bit more flow, maybe. I don't know, we'll find out, won't we? Got the back plate in place. I don't know if you can see, but everything's kind of, all the pads are making contact and making contact with what they're supposed to be making contact with on the board. And I know you can see a bit of a gap between them there, but they're good, they're good. All the pads are making contact, I can see through, and I can see that.
So guys, the results. What are we saying? What are we saying? Well, I'm super happy with it. One thing that I have added since everything that you've seen so far in the video is I did add a strip of this rubber around the edge here, to the edge of the fans because there's quite a bit of bleed. There was a gap between the fans and the heatsink, and it was just kind of bleeding. Now it's getting a really good pass through on there. Now, temps wise, I did run some benchmarks for the temps to see how we'd get on, to see what the difference is. What I didn't expect was that between the day that I ran the benchmarks on the original the original setup of the GPU, to now in the last couple of days, I've kind of waited to try and benchmark this. This is why the video is a little bit later than it was going to be. It should have been out a couple of days ago, but I waited to see if I could benchmark to give it a fair benchmark. But at the moment, it is the ambient temperature, literally the temperature of the day, is 10 degrees hotter than the day that I actually benchmarked the original setup. And unfortunately with the benchmarks, I did run the benchmarks, but the benchmarks basically, it's kind of running about the same temperature. It may have even peaked a couple of degrees hotter. But again, literally the temperature of the day, the ambient temperature in here. I'm in Britain. We don't build houses round an AC unit. We don't have AC in our houses usually, certainly not on my end of the budget. So it's windows open, but this just hot. Like, I would have filmed this yesterday, but I was sweating all day. So yeah, there's a good 10 to 12 degrees difference between the day that I benchmarked the original setup and now, and well, every time that I've tried to benchmark once I've done. But basically it's performing about the same. So you could say that I'm probably saving, I would say, somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees on like general running temperatures. Like if I was testing it in 10 degree colder climate, it would perform probably 5-10 degrees better than it did previously. So I'm good with that. The backplate, this gets hot. And it also dissipates its heat real quick. So once you stop gaming and stuff, it's not long before this backplate's cool again. But when it's running, oh, you can't touch it, which means it's freaking working. And it's funny because it gets real hot here. There's a cooler bit in the middle, and then this gets real hot. But this cools down quicker because obviously it's got constant airflow through it. So the heatsink is genuinely doing something. So I'm happy with that. Oh, and the audio. The biggest difference. Now, I've boosted the audio on these clips so that you can hear it. So I'm going to play them now, but basically, so this is the original fans at 60%. It's right, a bit whooshy. This is the Noctua fans at 60%. A little bit of a difference there. This is the original fans at 75%. Yeah, it's getting louder now. And with the modded version, this is the modded version actually at 80%. Somewhat ridiculous. Now, this is the original fans at 100%. Yeah, gets a little bit noisy. But once you're in a case with a panel on the side and you've got headphones in, you don't really notice it. Anyways, this is the modded fans at 100%. For context, let's listen to the original fans at 60% again. And now listen to the modded fans at 100%. The audible difference between the fans is freaking insane. I love these A9s. They did the same for my 3060. It just went silent. Like, the only noisy thing in this case now, I mean, I have all the Noctua fans running at like 70-odd%, 77%, because there's like a a section between 70 and 90% where the Noctua fans get a little bit sort of drone, like a woo, 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 kind of noise. But below that and above that, they're freaking so quiet. These A9s are no different. So I'm super happy with this. I think it looks freaking awesome. I kind of like the fact that it's kind of split open a little bit. It's like you know, like in the 90s when someone had stuffed like a massive engine into a tiny little car and the bonnet just has to sort of poke up a little bit just to make room. This is kind of what's going on here. And I freaking love it. So next up, we're going to be customizing this. I've got a couple of ideas for the customization on this. Probably won't be as invasive. We're just making it look pretty. But stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming up in the future weeks. So yeah, we're going to be doing customizing this. But I'm super happy with the mods, and I can't wait for some cooler climate so that I can really test it out. And I'll take you guys with me when it's a little cooler. We'll test it out and we'll see how it actually properly runs. And I'll keep hold of those benchmarks from the original setup so that we can compare, yeah? Right, anyways guys, thanks for watching. It's been a long one this, I know, but yeah, I had quite a lot to do to it. Hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Love you, bye. Like and subscribe. Thank you.